at the Young Turks are promoting a series called We the Economy, and it's 25 different episodes. Together it makes a film that tries to explain the economy in simple terms. Now, there's a lot of these videos that I love, including the one that I want to talk to you about today. It's episode 12, an animated film on the debt and deficit by Marshall Curry. Because they do the simple thing of explaining what the difference between the debt and the deficit are. Because oftentimes people try to trick you by using those words interchangeably. And that is not the case. First, let's watch the video. Just a small snippet of it to give you a sense of what they're doing here. And then I'll come back and tell you some numbers about what's happening today to give you a solid example.
That was also the first year that the federal government ran a deficit. That is, it spent more money than it took in taxes. And borrowed to cover the hole. And for the next 220-something years, the federal government carried a debt. Except for 1835 and 36, baby. Best president ever. A lot of people use the terms federal deficit and federal debt as if they meant the same thing, but they don't. The deficit is the amount of money the government needs to borrow in 1 year. The debt is the total amount of money that the government owes from all of the years of borrowing combined. Most of this money is borrowed from investors, who the government promises to pay back with interest. Some people think debt is scary, sinister, even immoral. But people take out loans to do all kinds of important things, like go to college, which can be a great investment. Assuming you actually study. Over the past few years, America has been climbing out of a recession. And there's a debate among smart people about whether deficit spending is the best plan for helping the economy recover.
So they go on to explain what that debate is. They go on to explain the deficit as a percentage of GDP and debt as a percentage of GDP. But they do it in simple terms that are very accurate. It's nonpartisan, so they're very careful not to talk about Republicans or Democrats, etc. They explain both sides, but they're accurate. So that's why I liked it. And there's a link below so you can watch that whole video. It's about 6.5 minutes long. And it's actually good to share with others who are confused on the issue. Now, I want to give you a solid example from the real world as to how that works. There are oftentimes conservatives who are complaining that Obama drove up the debt as if he's very irresponsible. And if you look at just the numbers on the debt, it certainly seems that way. Here, let me give you what they are. In January 20th of 2009, when he took office, the debt was $10.6 trillion. And as you just saw in that video from Marshall Curry, well, that is the accumulated debt throughout all the years of the American government. Now, when you look at the most recent number we have under Obama, the debt is at $17.6 trillion. That means it went up $7 trillion under Obama. My God, that sounds terrible. Why did Obama add so much to the debt? Well, it doesn't give you the context of what the deficit was when Obama took office. The year that Obama took office, George Bush left him a $1.4 trillion deficit. Now the deficit stands for this fiscal year at $483 billion. What that means is Obama took off about $1 trillion off of the deficit. He slowed the growth of the debt significantly. Now, he didn't get rid of it entirely. The only person who got rid of the deficit entirely in our lifetimes was Bill Clinton. Another Democrat. Now, We the Economy is nonpartisan. I don't have to be. Okay, and by the way, these are also facts. You don't have to be partisan. You can look it up. Last Republican to leave office without a deficit was Dwight Eisenhower. So they haven't done it in quite some time. So here, when you get the full context and understand the issue, you realize that yes, the debt is significant under President Obama, but that's because he was left a $1.4 trillion deficit that he has been lowering all throughout. And by the way, the last part of this trick is Bill Clinton, a Democrat, gets rid of the deficit. In fact, he left a surplus for Bush. And Bush comes back and doesn't say, all right, great, now let's keep that surplus going and pay down the debt. He says, perfect, time for tax cuts for the rich. Now, in the case of Obama, he's bringing down the deficit. We don't know what number he'll leave. But in 2016, if a Republican president comes in and Obama has actually gotten rid of the deficit, they'll say, great, time for tax cuts for the rich. And then they will build the deficit back up. They will add more to the debt overall. And then if a Democrat gets in office, they'll be like, why aren't you doing anything about the debt and the deficit? Look at history, man. That is exactly the game that has been played over the last 40 years. But either way, check out the video in the link below to get a sense of what the facts are.